Most days are unremarkable, white noise between the moments that matter. But every once in a while, a day stands still, timeless, vivid, and magical. So how is it possible that even on the most perfect of days, you can't escape the worst day of your life?
It was a Shinnecock summer day, light wind, beautiful blue skies, hardly a cloud in the sky. Jimmy was playing well. He birdied 4-5 and then birdied 8. Then I think the turning point of the round was on the 9th hole. Jimmy hits this side hill curling putt, which drops in the corner of the hole. And I said, oh my, we have something special going on today.
He parred 10 and we stepped to 11. It's 160 from the back edge of the box to a green that's maybe the size of the top of my head. And we had a little discussion about what club to hit. He mentioned 7, I mentioned 8. I pointed to the flags at the clubhouse, to assure him that it's downwind, and he pulled the 8-iron. And 10 seconds after, he pulled the trigger.
My father said that there were 3 really important things other than your health and your faith. Was 1, marry the right woman, go to the best college you can get into, and get good enough at golf so that you're not scared to death on the first tee.
Jimmy is a very much a Long Island person, and I've heard him say that he thinks Shinnecock is the greatest course in the world, that there's no better course. He was like the kid looking over the fence and would say, someday that will be me, I will be on that place.
Dunne first got a chance to play Shinnecock Hills as a teenager with his best friend, Quack, Chris Quackenbush, when a member whose house they were painting invited them to play a dream round.
We teed off around 3 o'clock, no one there, and it was spectacular. It was a gray kind of day, perfect. And when we got finished, I said in the parking lot, I said, Quack, I think this is the greatest golf course in the world. And he said, Jimmy, you played 4 golf courses in your life. Why do you make these? I said, I'm telling you. I said, well, I'm 61, I've played a lot of them, and I still think it's the greatest golf course in the world.
Quack and Jimmy weren't just golf buddies and best friends. They also worked together at the investment firm Sandler O'Neill, located on the 104th floor of 2 World Trade Center in Manhattan, where Dunne, a founding member, was a partner. A year later, in 2000, Dunne and Quack won the Labor Day Championship at Shinnecock. The next summer, Dunne, a 2 handicap at the time, wanted to qualify for the USGA Mid-Amateur. Qualifying would take place the second week of September, 2001.
We were in the office in the World Trade Center. Quack picked up the USG application, and he said, where are you going to go? I said, I'm going to go to Round Hill on the 10th in Connecticut. And he said, you should go to Bedford on the 11th. You can get it under par at Bedford. I drove up to Bedford, and the last thing he and my partner Herman said were, whatever you do, just qualify. Don't call in the morning. Chris will be here, I'll be here. Nothing is going to happen.
We're back at 8 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. It's the 11th day of September, 2001. You're looking at the people gathered outside our studio here on a...
It was a beautiful day, but it was a cold, frost delay, I guess. And so we got out a little later, and I had played the first 4 holes to go pretty good. I think I was 1 under after 4, and a man in a tie, USGA guy, came out and said, you have to go call your office. He said a plane hit the World Trade Center.
A very large plane flew past my window, and I think it may have hit the Trade Center again.
Something deliberate has happened here.
This is very real. The skyline of the city of New York has been transformed, and we have every reason to believe there are thousands dead.
As everybody in this city was getting off the island, getting out of Manhattan, you worked your way in.
Well, before I got on the train, I was talking to Mike Williams. His son, Kevin, was working for us. I hired him. He caddied for me. Mike was out, looking for Kevin in the hospitals, and he called me and said that they found Kevin Williams. And I, of course, was ecstatic. I don't know that I ever got news and I had more of a physical elation than that news. I ran outside my partner's home and I got in the car, and then his wife came and he said, Jimmy, you gotta get a call. I said, I gotta go. And they said, no, it's Mike Williams. He wants to speak to you again. And I ran back up the stairs and I said, Mike, what's up? What's up? I was elated, And he said, it's something that just shaped everything that we did. He said, Jimmy, they found Kevin Williams. It's just not our Kevin Williams. And I just thought about the humanity of that comment. I just decided we were going to do our very best with everything.
Of the 171 Sandler O'Neill employees, 83 were in the South Tower. Only 17 made it out. Among the 66 killed was Dunne's best friend, Quack.
The firm for all of us became a kind of a weapon. Our strategy is going to be, what would Osama bin Laden not want us to do? I said, we're just going to do the absolute opposite. If your husband was just killed, what goes through your mind? The first thing goes through your mind is your kids. The second thing is, how do I pay for it? So I said, okay, and I just tried to imagine. I said, all right, the first thing they're gonna worry about is cash flow. So bang, we're gonna pay them obviously through the end of the year, and we'll pay them bonuses that were greater than what they ever received. That's the short-term cash flow. Second thing they're gonna worry about is benefits. So with the help of our CFO, I figured out how long that we could really stand to do it, and then I doubled it, because I just did. And then was education. And we started a foundation. And that was going to pay for all the education for their kids. It matters a lot to me.
Because it's their dads, it's their people who...
And they're not there to fight for them.
Right, and you are.
Well, you got that right.
Whitney Quackenbush, Chris's daughter, is one of the 76 children whose educations were eligible to be paid for by the Sandler O'Neill Foundation. She, like Evan Lozier and Jack Connor and many others, have since come to work for Dunne at the very same firm their parents once worked.
It is tough to talk to people more about my dad and what they all went through, but it's also really special to hear all those memories and to hear all those stories, and I'm really thankful for Jimmy and the team at Sandler for letting me have that.
I mean, they didn't have a legal obligation to do anything for us. To morally step up and to give the families what they have through the years is so remarkable.
And there's some things that people do that you just cannot thank and put into words, and he's one of those people. He's just done everything for me.
We get to the 11th hole. He hit an 8-iron.
It was right on line, and we heard it hit the stick. And we all froze thinking that if it hit the stick, maybe we'll see it, roll off the green somewhere. Nothing.
One of our playing partners says, oh boy, that was a great shot. That must have been in the hole. And Jimmy says,
no, it probably hit against the pin and went off the green. Lenny, who always caddies for me, looked in the hole and said, there's the cue. He said, it's in there, it's a cue, you made a 1.
And we look down, and there it is with the cue, which is his characteristic mark that he's put on his ball in honor of Chris Quackenbush after 9/11, looking up in the sky. It was almost like a miracle.
Dunne's hole-in-one on that July day was part of a round of 63 that set the course record, once held by his friend Billy Edwards. Billy's son Mike was among those lost at Sandler. The connections between arguably the greatest day and worst day of Jimmy Dunne's life are everywhere. He's built a shrine of sorts on the 3rd floor of his home just a couple of miles from Shinnecock that represents the intersection of these 2 days. There's the hole-in-one scorecard, and the ball with the cue that landed in the 11th hole, and of course, the memories of that one day in September 2001.
The whole thing is hard. Yeah. It was sad. It's still sad. We don't run from it. It's part of who we are. We're proud of what we were before. We're proud of what we did, and we think they'd be proud of us too.
You got one hell of a life.
Great life. Every good thing that could ever happen to a person has happened to me.